Hey guys, Jason Samosa here. I'm currently away on holiday in America, but given the earth-shattering news that's just dropped with David Grusch and his testimony, I wanted to take a moment, firstly, to find all the good clips that are available and put them into one place in this video, and take a moment to celebrate and respond to that content here. So what I'm going to do is run through these bits of content and to ask the question, what does it mean? What do we learn? And I think the most important question that we've got to ask is, who is David Grusch? And can we trust him? So let's run through some of these clips together.
Former member of that task force and veteran of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency is formally blowing the whistle on secrets he says no one has ever shared publicly before.
You are one of the most trusted former intelligence officials in the US defense and intelligence establishment.
Yes, I was.
You were trusted with the most intimate secrets.
Yes.
I know it's an early place to stop here, but I just want to drill home a point about David Grusch. You might notice he's really young. He's actually 36 years old. And that was the first thing I thought was, wait a second, how can someone so young be so senior? Well, one thing that David Grusch did was he would be one of the people responsible for giving the president an intelligence briefing. Now, what this means is he had to be cleared to understand all the various aspects of intelligence that might be required to do that. I've heard some figures floating around online that he had access to hundreds, if not thousands, of special access programs. Now, if you understand what special access programs are, you'll understand why that's a massive, massive deal. A special access program is designed so that only the people who need to know about that program know about it. Doesn't matter if you have a top secret clearance or if you're a GS-15 or whatever, only the people who are supposed to know about it know about it. That's how they keep things secret in the United States government. So if somebody has access to hundreds or thousands of special access programs, that individual is a single point of failure, i.e. they know a vast swathe of classified data and secrets that other people do not know. So if that person in any way couldn't be trusted or could be compromised, then there is no way you would ever give them access to all of that. So what does that tell us? It tells us that David Grusch, for whatever reason, I don't know this yet, like why exactly he was so trusted, but he was a highly regarded and highly trusted individual despite being only 36 years old. So when Ross Coulthart asked him this question, you were a highly trusted person, you were a very senior person, I think that's what he's getting at.
What conclusion did you come to at the end of your time on the UAP task force?
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
One of the things that's really on my mind right now is not to get overexcited. We don't really know who this person is yet. We don't really have any way of backing up what he's saying. But this very senior person from the US defense and intelligence establishment is coming forward and not just saying there are things in our skies and we don't know what they are and they're behaving weirdly. He is saying that we have their spacecraft. This is where the transcendent of the infinite possibilities of what could happen in our universe and things that are beyond the realm of what humanity currently has access to and things that could provoke evolution in our species. That's where this transcendent world crashes into the scientific realm, because if you have physical craft, then you have something you can analyze. We have a way of actually understanding this in a tangible way. It's an astonishing claim that moves the conversation forwards. It also implies that there is a non-human intelligence, that there is some other set of beings out there, some other civilization that is here in this world, in our skies and in our oceans, and somehow interacting with us. And it's exactly what Ross Coulthart was telling us a couple of months ago. In a few interviews, he was saying that people were being briefed on the program. And this is another thing that's coming up here, is that David Grusch is talking about a program. Again, it's not just that there are non-human craft and non-human beings, it's that the United States government has a deeply secret program. I don't know about you, but this is highly reminiscent of the Wilson Davis memo and that whole story of Admiral Tom Wilson trying to get access to this very, very secret program, sometimes referred to as Zodiac or Project Red Light or Project Moondust, different aspects of whether it's crash retrieval or reverse engineering. These are probably terms that some of you will be familiar with. These stories that have been relegated to the world of mythology and conspiracy are being brought to tangible reality when David Grusch speaks and says, I found that program. And he's now on the news, and this is being reported in The Guardian, in The Independent, on Fox News. It's spreading all over the internet like wildfire. It's absolutely astonishing. Absolutely astonishing.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me. I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me they were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
If someone's lying about this kind of stuff, what they do is they try and keep it abstracted from reality, right? So you put a theory out there, but you don't show how it ties into reality, because otherwise people can check those data points. But what David Grusch is saying is he's spoken to people. He has seen documentation. He has heard stories from people inside the intelligence community, people he's worked with. So what he's saying is, hey guys, I'm not just telling you a story, I can give you a list of the people that I've spoken to and the places that I went to look for this information. Now that information isn't currently available to us. Apparently we're being told it's very highly classified and therefore we can't see it and yada, yada, yada. However, when it comes to congressmen and women who have been briefed on this, by the way, if you watch Ross Coulthart and Bruce Zabel's podcast from the other day, they talk about how Congress has been briefed by David Grusch for 11 hours. An 11-hour hearing where David Grusch told them everything in terms of where they need to look and what is going on. So this means that the Congress can go in and actually verify this information if they have the courage to do so. So again, this is not an abstracted statement. This is grounded in the reality of the Department of Defense. Look over here, speak to this person, search for this document, here are the names and references that you need, and you will find this. Very similar to what you read in the Wilson Davis memo, where Wilson is given the information that he needs to find the program, and in the memo we see that he did.
If you're right, if you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
That is an enormous statement. Isn't it interesting how we're not just getting information about a secret program, we're also getting the strategies that they use to keep that program a secret. Here we are being told that there is a disinformation campaign. That means it's not just that they are passive, right? It's not just that they're hiding a secret from the American people. It's not just that they're hiding it from the rest of the Department of Defense, but they are actively and proactively targeting who? The American public. And I think by implication, the rest of the world with a disinformation campaign. And what's fascinating here is David Grusch isn't just saying that this is a problem. He's saying it's extremely unethical. Now, what I want to do is I actually want to skip forward to a point in Ross Coulthart and Bruce Zabel's podcast where they talk about this unethical element of what's been going on.
Yeah, I think there are people who will go to jail if US law is heeded. I really do. I mean, I'm absolutely shocked by what's been revealed. And frankly, if what's revealed over the next week doesn't force Congress and the mainstream media into an extremely aggressive investigation for the first time of this issue, I'm talking about Church Commission style inquiries. If that doesn't happen, America might as well just declare itself an authoritarian regime and give up pretending to be a democracy. I'm really quite shocked. In some cases, I'm scared about what I'm aware of.
So that's Ross Coulthart talking about what he's learned about how this program has been kept secret. He has had a 7-hour interview with David Grusch. So these clips that we're seeing are just snippets from the 7 hours. We're going to have an hour published this coming Sunday. And Ross Coulthart then, I heard today on that UFO podcast, thanks guys for your excellent reporting, that Ross Coulthart is committed to getting the rest of that 7 hours out at some point as well. So when Ross Coulthart has been speaking to David Grusch and speaking to other people on this program as well, he has found out things that he says are serious crimes. Is it possible that people have been harmed, hurt, threatened, or potentially killed in the name of keeping this program a secret? This is speculation. However, from some of the stories that we've all heard in the UFO community, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I think this is another reason why I feel an initial sense of trust towards David Grusch. It's this. It's not just that he's revealing information and saying, hey, there's this secret and this stuff is true. He is pointing the finger and saying there are unethical things that have happened. And clearly, Ross Coulthart from the conversations that he has had, is aware of crimes. Now ask yourself, does David Grusch look like a whistleblower when he talks about an unethical disinformation campaign, or does he look like a Pentagon stooge? It's a genuine question. I think that is an indicator of a genuine whistleblower.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, an official intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
Just take a moment to take this in. We have someone on national television telling us we're not alone. If this is the real deal, this moment will go down in history. The moment when we suddenly had a spark of consciousness. We were beginning to be permitted to be allowed to think of ourselves not just as a planet, but as a civilization that exists amongst other civilizations, as an intelligence that exists amongst other intelligences in a solar or galactic or universal community. I know I don't want to be like over cheesy or over dramatic, but we also sometimes need to snap ourselves away from our screens and snap ourselves away from the virtual world that we live in and realize that this is absolutely astonishing. Again, we can't get too excited, but this is a huge step forward. And if you're a believer, I know I am, then this isn't just a theory that's being put out there to be verified. It's a big swinging punch for disclosure. What an astonishing, astonishing day.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
Do you remember a few weeks ago we had John Ramirez and Steve Bassett and Ross Coulthart all telling us this conversation was going to get amped up, and the term that was being bandied around was we're going to open the door on talking about a non-human intelligence. We're going to open the door on starting to ask who pilots these craft. We aren't just getting that. This guy has come forward, and not only has he said there is a non-human intelligence, he has told us that we have the craft and we have the bodies. The implications of this are staggering. Now, we're going to have to wait until Sunday to get a much longer version of this interview, and frankly, I can't wait. I'm sure you guys can't either. This is just like mind-blowing stuff. But in the meantime, on Bruce Zabel and Ross Coulthart's podcast the other day, they accidentally let slip a couple of really fascinating revelations that Grusch made that haven't been revealed through those interviews that we've just seen so far. So let me run you these clips, we'll make some comments, and then we'll wrap up.
And by the way, one of the things you're going to learn in Ross's reporting is that it's a 90-year cover-up, not the one that we've been saying might be 80. It's a 90-plus year cover-up.
Okay, that's the first one. It's a 90-year cover-up. Now, personally, I believe that this phenomenon has existed for a long time, but until now, when it comes to people like Lou Elizondo or Chris Mellon or Jim Semivan, who have been talking over the last few years, they tend to say that activity really started post-World War II. But in this interview we're going to have coming up on Sunday, you are going to learn that the United States has known about this phenomenon for 90 years. So put that clock back. Where does that take us to? That takes us back to 1933 in the pre-war era. The phrase that's used there by Bryn Zabel is not just that they've known about it, but this is a 90-year cover-up. That is almost a century. An astonishing revelation that we're all going to learn a lot more about. Now, for the next one.
You have stated several times non-human intelligence, which is, of course, NHI is sort of the new way to talk about it. And I buy into that. I mean, we don't, as he states, he doesn't want to talk about origin because they're not entirely sure about that. So alien in everybody's mind is, well, they come from out there. Well, there may be other explanations. So, no, but it is clear that this is non-human intelligence. But he has also used the plural, right? He has used the plural phrase, non-human intelligences. And that means there's more than one out there. And that also is a pretty huge headline to me.
More on that in my interview on News Nation coming up.
So a couple of amazing things there. I mean, this is just full of amazing stuff, right? I feel like a kid in a candy store. Firstly, one thing that did surprise me was this statement that the documentation that Grusch has seen and the things that he's learned, he clearly thinks that we don't know where these species have come from, which implies that perhaps we don't have a functional communication or relationship with them at this phase. God, saying these things just sounds crazy, doesn't it? But like, this is where we're at when we talk about this stuff. This is the kind of language and the verbiage that we have to use. The implication of what he's saying there is that we don't have any kind of functional relationship with them where we can ask them or find out where they're from. So that's a very, very interesting piece that you could dig into for hours already. But then we get the bombshell revelation that it isn't just one intelligence. There's multiple. Now, again, I said this multiple times. For anyone who's been involved in the community for a while, you probably heard this, right? If you go back to the Stars Academy and some of the things that Tom DeLonge was saying maybe 7 years ago, there was this concept of a proxy war. There was this idea of warring gods, the idea that it isn't just one set of beings that are here, but that there's multiple sets of beings and that they're somehow at enmity, at war with each other, and that we're caught in the middle of it. Does that sound like a science fiction novel? Because that is the implication of what is being said here. There are multiple intelligences, which means that it's not just us who need to relate to them, but they are relating to each other. I guess more on that on Sunday when we get to Ross Coulthart's interview. Just another astonishing thing to slap ourselves around the face with. One final thing before we go.
But what he is clear about is that he does not think that Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick gave a truthful and accurate record to Congress. And indeed, he believes that Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick knows most of what he's revealing in his interview with both Ralph and Leslie, and particularly in his interview with me.
Well, I don't think that's going to be a surprise to many people. It seems the response to Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick online has been incredibly negative. I, for one, felt encouraged by the presentation we had a couple of months ago from him. Not because I believed he was telling us everything that he knew or that the United States government knew, but that it looked like we were moving in a direction where we were going to get more information over time. You know, even just that little drip was encouraging compared to the absolute wall of silence that we've had in terms of information on this issue. However, the implication of what I'm saying and my take on what he's doing is that they are withholding information, and therefore in some sense they have been dishonest. My take is that there are people out there who genuinely believe that this subject matter is too scary and too terrifying for ordinary people to handle, and therefore they were going to reveal it extremely slowly. But the reality is that when you get people coming out like this, the lid does get blown off. I mean, today, even if David Grusch had just told us that there is a non-human intelligence, the dialogue doesn't just move forwards, it amplifies exponentially, because suddenly you have all these questions. Who are they? Why are they here? Where have they come from? How long have they been here for? All these questions appear and the conversation whirls around. So whatever happens, whether you have disclosure like this through David Grusch, or whether it was going to come through Sean Kirkpatrick, just saying that there is a non-human intelligence, let's just say in 2024 or 2025, implied by the videos and the data that they've collected at Arrow. Whoever it is and whatever they say, the moment you make that statement, Pandora's box opens and things do begin to get out of control. How out of control will they get? Well, I think ultimately that depends on how well people respond to this story. How will things progress from here? It depends on how we respond to it as a community. If you watch this podcast, in fact, I've got the clip right here. Ross Coulthart tells us there are more witnesses ready. They're only going to come forward when they're encouraged by how the community and how the Department of Defense responds to David Grusch's testimony. So it's time for all of us, whether it's the Congress or the Senate or England or America or whoever, to take this testimony seriously. Not by saying that we just believe it and will swallow anything that's being said, but by demanding that the Congress or the Senate in America or my government in the United Kingdom look into this, that they follow up with the leads that have been given by David Grusch so that they can verify and come back to us and tell us whether that documentation really stands up. So this is not about saying we're just going to believe what's being said here. This is a teaser, and it's time for us to order the full dish. Now, let me just show you what Ross Coulthart has to say here, and then I promise you we will wrap up.
Just to emphasize, Dave Grusch is just the beginning.
Yeah.
There are people inside the program, and I know because I'm talking to them, who want to come forward and who are waiting to see how Congress and the American media treat people who come forward with revelations of criminality and wrongdoing at the highest level of the US government.
All right, as you can see, guys, the sun is setting here. I don't have much time left. This video that's been put out is absolutely astonishing. When the full clip comes out on Sunday, there'll be more to say, there'll be more to analyze. I suspect there'll be more to dig into than I can possibly manage whilst being on the road, but I can't wait to look at it. I can't wait to hear what you guys think. Tell me in the comments whether you trust Dave Grusch, what you think the next step should be, what you make of some of his comments, and let's just see what happens on Sunday. I've been Jason Somoza. This is Jason Somoza's Ufology Moment, and I think quite aptly, really, forget about Jason Somoza's Ufology Moment. This is Ufology's moment. What a day, what a week, what a time to be alive. Have a great one. Thanks.